Good morning, guys, and thank you for joining me again for another YouTube coaching session, mini coaching session in my 3-minute series. Today's topic comes from a student, and they asked, what are some good ways to make yourself stand out in an interview? And this is a really good question, and I'm going to assume at this point, if you're at an interview, you've already met with us to talk about resumes and cover letters, and we've already gone through some practice. So I'm going to try to be very specific on some different tips to really stand out. First thing, it starts, even before you greet the person, it starts with the time that you get there. You want to be there early, not too early, because you're going to put pressure on them if you're there too early. Of course, you don't want to be late. So about 10 minutes is a good amount of time. If you get there before 10 minutes, go use the restroom or something, check your teeth, check your hair, make sure that you look good and presentable for the interview. And then a really good way to stand out, and a really critical way to stand out, is the way that you introduce yourself and greet the person who's going to interview you. Typically, you'll walk into a setting where there's a receptionist. You want to be friendly and nice, make some small talk. Don't get on your phone. I know it's real easy when we're there, we're alone, we're waiting, and you pull out your phone and get on it. Don't do that. Just wait patiently. The person will come out, they'll extend their hand. You want to stand up, make eye contact, smile, and give them a firm handshake. And this body language, this introduction is critical. If they sense that you're not approaching the interview with confidence right off the bat, it's going to make it very hard to recover during the rest of the interview. Most hiring managers have already made their decision whether or not they're going to hire you in the first 5 minutes of meeting you. So that means the beginning of the interview is critical. If the beginning of the interview goes very poorly, very hard to recover. The second way you want to make sure that you really stand out is your posture and the way that you sit in the interview setting. You want to stand, you sit with your back straight, you want to make eye contact. Again, you want to remember to smile. They'll know you're a little bit nervous, so that's okay, but you don't want to hunch over or turn inward or have your eyes kind of all over the place. That's again, it's not going to make them feel that you're confident about your ability to do the job, and even worse, they may think you're lying about some of your answers if you answer with poor body language. After that, the next way to really stand out is have a great about me statement. I've said it before in other presentations and interviews, but when an employer says, tell me about yourself, this is the area that almost all applicants struggle with unless they're very well rehearsed. And the best way to have a great about me statement is to practice. Practice in the mirror, practice with family, practice with friends, come practice with us in the Career Development Center. Practice and have it critiqued and have it come out very confidently, come out smoothly. That's a really nice way to stand out. And if you're doing everything I've told you so far in an interview and you have the basic qualifications, you've got a good chance of getting another interview after this. After the about me statement, they're going to go into some different questions. Some traditional questions, things like strengths and weaknesses. Do you like to work alone or as part of a team? And then behavioral questions. Tell me about a time. Give me an example when. Things like that. And you got to answer those questions correctly too. And you really want to stand out. If you don't give enough information, or if you give way too much information, you're going to stand out for the wrong reason. You either won't be memorable, or you're going to be remembered as the person that rambles. And so really, again, another really nice way to stand out is to have a concise answer that addresses all the points of the question. So if they say, what's one of your biggest weaknesses? If you say, well, my biggest weakness is time management, and you stop right there, that's not nearly enough. But if you say my biggest weakness is time management, and here's what I'm doing to make sure it mitigates. So this is the strategy I use to make sure that my failures in time management, my weakness in time management don't become a problem. And you end right there. That's a good answer, right? You've given them the weakness. You've given them what you do to make sure it's not an issue for your employer, and that's it. Now, the third scenario, of course, is if you give them the weakness, you give them the solution, and then you just keep going, right? And you're giving them example after example after example. That's way too much. So having a concise answer that addresses the question is a nice way to stand out. When you get to the behavioral questions, so tell me about a time when, give me an example of, you also have to answer these correctly. And people, we love to hear stories. Before the written word, all information was passed from generation to generation by the spoken word. And we still love to hear stories from people. And so you got to answer these questions with somewhat of a story. Now, we call it the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. And you got to make sure that you're using that method or a similar one, where they'll say, tell me about a time you had conflicts with a teammate. You give them the situation, then this is the task, this is what needed to be done, this is the action I took, and here's what the result was. No more, no less. And you hopefully it's a result that makes you look good, and an action that you took to deal with the issue in a positive way. So that answering those questions right way will make you stand out well. I'd say that I'm getting really close to time, and I think it's okay if I go a little bit over on this one. Another way to really stand out well is to limit anything negative in the interview. You know, I remember once I had a candidate come in when I was managing a bank, and all this candidate talked about was how bad their previous employer was, and how much their managers sucked, and how much their teammates were awful, and they couldn't just wait to get out of there. And you know, it's just everything was negative, and employers don't want to hire someone like that. So limit anything negative. A couple other ways you want to leave with a firm handshake. You always want to ask for the job when you leave. There's lots of different ways to ask for the job. You don't want to just be, hey, I'd really like this job. I want to work here. But you could say something like, you know, based off of everything I've heard and based off of meeting your team, this sounds like a really exciting place to work, and I'd love to be your next hire. You know, something like that, where you're expressing your desire to be there. Have really good questions at the end of the interview. That's a good way to stand out. You know, if you don't have any questions at the end of the interview, the employer is going to think you're not interested in working there, and you're going to fall in their rankings of people that they want to hire. So make sure you have good questions. Make sure you ask for the job when you leave. Again, nice handshake, nice smile, a little bit of small talk on the way out. And the very last way to make yourself kind of stand out well is to send a nice thank you note. Now, you don't have to send a snail mail thank you note, but if that's the route that you want to go, make sure it goes in the mail the same day. You know, we don't know how long USPS takes anymore, and so you want them to get the note quickly. An email is okay. You know, before you leave, each person you interview with, make sure you have their business card, make sure you have their contact information, so you can send them each a separate email thanking them, and again, and expressing interest one last time in this email. So I think those are pretty specific. As always, you know, if you want to practice, if you want to work on even more specific strategies, let me know. You can contact me at 713-221-8980, and that number you can get any of the career coaches with UHD. Of course, you can always email me as well, coultert@uhd.edu. And the best way to get a hold of me is Jobs for Gators. You already have an account if you're an alumni or a current student. You just need to activate it. An alumni, you'll have to sign up for it. We'll approve it. But you can contact us that way too. Anyway, guys, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you all are staying safe. And I'll see you guys next Thursday for our next installment. See ya.